Good evening and welcome. The August 6th, 2018 Board of Commissioners meeting is now in session. If you would, please rise for the invocation and pledge. Susan Fletcher has been kind enough to give that for us.
Good evening. Will you join your hearts with me in prayer? Father God, we are so thankful to be yours, and we are thankful that you have given to us stewardship and authority in your kingdom. We understand the responsibility that lies before us as citizens of your kingdom, citizens of this nation, of this state, and of this county. I ask your presence tonight to be here and sit at this council. Give wisdom and discernment. Give a holy boldness and an extra portion of faith. The decisions are made according to your law, according to your justice, things that will build up, the things that need to be built up, and set aside those things that need to be set aside. But when all is said and done, we pray that all is said and done to the glory of your holy name. Amen.
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 Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. Reverend Slater, thank you for those great words. Thank you for coming this evening. Next item would be approval of the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I have a couple additions. Under new business for board appointments, I'd like to add items 5, Board of Adjustment, and 6, Recreation Advisory. With that, I would motion for approval of the agenda with those two additions.
We have a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Moving on to Commissioner's Report. I'll start this evening. Had a great opportunity to go to the Pirate Plunder at the Weeping Radish. Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. I skipped public comment. I apologize. I'm trying to get ahead of myself. I was really excited to talk about that. It was really neat. So I do apologize. We'll go to public comments. And the first name I have here, and I do apologize, I can't read it. I believe it's H.V. Cole. Okay, Mr. Cole, come on up. If you would, state your name and address for the record. I appreciate it.
Cole. I live at Brumsey Road. I've been in Currituck County 40-plus years, and a good place for us to live at when I came here. I've come tonight to talk about a black eye. We had our representative, Mr. Steinberg, to come to this county looking for the golden goose, and he found it with Currituck County. And he took the money from the golden goose and left and said thank you. Mr. Steinberg said he went and got representation. It was all right. It was legal. It might be. But back in the country where I come from, they call it extincted, go to the heavens and back. And that's what it did. Mr. Diamond should have knew it was wrong. If he didn't, he should have. He come down to the county. We had good people working for the county. They should have knew it, didn't know it, got through. We're going to give Mr. Steinberg a black eye. We're going to give the people that went through with this, and I'm sure a lot of them wasn't aware of what was going on. I hope that in the future, East and North Carolina, when Mr. Steinberg comes with looking for the golden goose, that they recognize him. I think some of you, ladies and gentlemen, recognize that now. You ladies and gentlemen, as county commissioners, I'm going to have to give y'all a black eye because y'all should have known about it. Somebody down the line okayed this, and I think we, the citizens of this county, need to know who that was. I'm not just arguing. I know what kind of pressure they was probably under. I've been dealing with the politics end of it for a long time. But this is not right, folks. So I'm going to give the county Mr. Steinberg and whoever was involved in it a black eye. And I hope that y'all think about this. If we got $50,000 to give away anymore, let's give it to the teachers of Currituck County where they can buy supplies for their children in the schools. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Cole. Moving on, Abby Rose.
My name is Abby Rose, and I live at 212 Pointers Road in Moyock. Good evening. I'm a rising junior at Currituck County High School. I'm very involved in the agricultural program and the FFA. I serve as secretary of our local chapter and also of the Northeast region. When I interviewed for an officer position at the end of my freshman year, I had to come up with a goal that I thought would make our ag program better. My goal was to get a barn so that we could expand the animal science program. It really wouldn't cost that much for a small barn, maybe $30,000. But as I got more involved in my program my sophomore year, I realized we really needed a new greenhouse. The barn could wait. So I guess you could say my goal changed. Our greenhouse was built in the 60s for J.P. Knapp. When the new high school was built, where the Currituck Middle School is currently located, the greenhouse was moved from Knapp to that site, and we are still using it today. The greenhouse is in shambles. The sprinkler system doesn't work, it doesn't retain heat, and the prime growing season is in January. So in turn, we plant all the plants and have to transport our plants inside in cold months. The structure has been patched. It served its purpose very well for a 50-plus-year-old greenhouse, but our program could be better with a new greenhouse. By providing a proper educational greenhouse, we can provide the kids with more hands-on learning experience and really grow our horticulture program. This provides students with an opportunity to gain supervised agricultural experience hours, understanding of plant production, record keeping, and customer service experience. However, because of the condition of the greenhouse, we are limited as to when we can grow plants. We could really expand our growing season with a greenhouse, and as a result, our learning experiences would be broader. Our CTE director was in hopes of using Perkins money to purchase a greenhouse, but the greenhouse is considered a non-removable structure, and funds cannot be used for that. I went before the school board in May to ask them for support in purchasing a new greenhouse. Dr. Dobney suggested I contact Sun Energy to see if they could help. I wrote a letter in June and as of yet have not had a reply. I did the same with the recently approved solar farm in Grandy, Ecoplexus, and I got the same results, no reply. The school board voted to look into getting us a greenhouse with capital improvement money, but I believe their budget had already been prepared with other needs. A new greenhouse will cost $72,000 with everything. So I have another idea, and that's where you come in. I know that our county greatly benefits from tourism and occupancy tax money, which must be spent on tourism. I recently visited the Welcome Center in Moyock. Very nice, great people. I received a luggage tag, which was free to visitors, and then I thought, people might think of Currituck more often if they had a daily reminder, perhaps a tiny succulent plant with a Visit Currituck sticker. Currituck County occupancy money could be used for a greenhouse. We, the students, could grow these little plants and sell them to the tourism department at cost. And then our visitors would have a daily reminder of their visit again. Wouldn't that be a good investment of tourism dollars? I want to stress I am here as a result of my officer goal. I see the need and I'm working to help meet my need. My teachers, Ms. Swain and Mr. Meads, work very hard and they help to support each of us as we try to make our goals happen. But coming here was my idea. I invited Ms. Swain to come tonight in case you ask me questions that I cannot answer. Thank you.
Ms. Rose, thank you for your presentation. It's great to see young folks active in 4-H and in FFA, and it's much needed in this county to keep our tradition going. I'm sure this would be something we'll be happy to take under consideration.
Okay.
You did
Thank
great
you.
on your presentation, by the way. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Rose, if I could, have you talked to the College at the Albemarle with their agribusiness at all? I'm sorry.
Actually, yes. In the ag business program.
Come up to the podium, please.
I actually work part-time for COA with their ag business program. And at this time, they do not have the potential to add to their current facilities at COA. I think at some point they're looking at a partnership maybe with one of the local schools in the school system of Elizabeth City to maybe be able to use that for their horticulture class that they're going to offer, but that's not even going to be offered until next spring. So I think everything there is still kind of in the works as far as what they're going to do facility-wise.
Okay. I'll tell you what, I'll be glad to look into possibly a grant or something else that maybe might help and assist. Please stay in touch with me. I'll be glad to give you my phone number.
Okay.
You know,
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
And
Any more questions?
we'll be happy to discuss with you and get back with you in just a couple weeks, probably.
Okay. Thank you.
That's all I have signed up for public comments. Would anyone else like to speak during public comments? Again, I apologize for skipping over that. Moving on to Commissioner's Report. I'm going to start this evening. Got to go to the Pirate Plunder last Sunday. What a great event. Everyone just does an amazing job here. Yuli really got the grounds ready. It was neat to see all the encampments, and I guess I'm assuming that all these folks kind of travel around the region for these pirate reenactments. It was really neat to watch. And travel tourism, again, just knocked it right out of the park. It's amazing what they pull together every time. And the 350th committee, I know they're working real hard to make all this stuff really special for us for our 350th. So many thanks to them. And please get the book and get engaged and go to these events. They're really neat, very educational, and it's worth the time to go. So I'm very appreciative of that. And with that, I'll hand it over to Mr. Hall.
no comments at this time. It's been a great week, folks, other than the rain. So try out, and I'll talk to you another time.
Mr. White?
Thank you, sir. Couple things. Some people may have noticed on Facebook recently the horse that was stuck in the cattle grate. I don't know if you guys saw that or not, but there was I know you and I talked about it, Commissioner Beaumont, but that was actually pulled from the spring. That harem that kept escaping and was later pulled off the island and taken to Wrangler Farms. So Wavy pretty much got some of there was a lot of misinformation and erroneous information in that article that they have since pulled it and are supposed to put out a new article explaining what was really going on with those horses. So I just want to assure everyone that horse is fine. It had tried to jump the cattle grate and didn't make it. It was a little foal. It just got a leg stuck in there. So they were able to get him extricated, and he's in good health at Wrangler Farms now. Additionally, I'd like to thank H&H and Mark Thompson. They put in an incredible amount of hours in Corova and Swan Beach pumping. Mark is still working in North Swan Beach pumping. And one night they were up till 2 o'clock in the morning trying to get stuff set up and moved around. Those guys did an incredible job under a lot of pressure from us and our staff. Eric, I don't know if he slept for about 3 days, but I talked to him a lot, and he was instrumental in putting all this stuff together. So kudos to all those folks. And then I just wanted to address what Mr. Cole said. The $50,000 did not come from tax money, ad valorem tax money. That was from occupancy tax dollars. So at no point did your tax money end up getting used to sponsor that event. It was actually tourist money from occupancy tax. That's all I have this evening.
Commissioner Beaumont?
I too wanted to give a shout out to not only Eric and our engineer, but also a lot of the manpower that was used to help man those pumps in Corolla, especially, was from our firefighting staff, and that permitted us to maintain continuous operation of those pumps without really having to incur any significant excessive or a significant additional labor to that was already within the county. So it was a hard battle, and it was well fought. And it's, again, raised some of the issues that we face in Currituck, notably waiting for water to evaporate rather than watching it drain anywhere. So it did raise some issues that we need to consider, and the county is going to be taking that forward to trying to prevent similar inconvenience to not only our tourists and our visitors, but to our residents and our as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all I got.
Commissioner Etheridge?
Thank you. In July, I had the opportunity to attend the National Associations of Counties annual conference in Davidson County, Nashville, Tennessee. North Carolina was represented with over 150 county leaders. The conference provided an opportunity for counties across the nation to come together for workshops, education sessions, and networking to share best practices and discuss common challenges. I also participated in the state's caucus meeting, and several North Carolinians were appointed to leadership roles in North Carolina. The second item I would like to address is the contract with the Wolfstein Company. I do not need to address the legality or the ethics of the contract. Mr. Steinberg states it was both legal and ethical. What I think needs to be addressed is the perception. A perception is a thought, a belief, or an opinion often held by many people and based on appearance, as we saw by the gentleman who spoke earlier. The conduct of government officials and public employees affects personal and public perception of and trust for our government. I hope this board have an obligation to the public we serve, as well as to the public officials who serve us, to make sure that the public does not lose trust in their government. I would like to recommend that our board discuss and develop guidelines to protect the integrity of our board and also public officials who wish to do business with Currituck County. Thank you.
Commissioner Gilbert?
Okay. Just want to recognize JP Knapp opened today, our early college. They're on a college calendar and not the school calendar. So we've got young drivers, and the school is already open. And as Miss Rose came up, she's one of the students that is back in school. So we've got those young drivers and school buses on the road again. So please keep eyes out for them. The other thing, because children and animals are my passion, I just want to give some kudos to Robert Stamey and his group. He had a tremendous golf tournament just recently to the profits went to Currituck Kids, and I just want to thank him and the team and those that participated. It was a significant amount of money that was contributed to Currituck Kids. That money stays in Currituck County. It goes to fill the gap between what the teachers and what the social services can do. So again, I can't thank everybody that participated in that event. It was a great event, and it's very, very much appreciated.
Thank you, Commissioner Gilbert. Commissioner Payment?
Couple things with the storm we had last week. Believe it or not, Lower Currituck did have flooding issues as well. So I did tour some of the sites. I talked to individuals out there. I have sent some information to our county engineer, and I know a lot of areas need to be looked at still. I know there's drainage concerns from residents. We are working on all those. It's just we got inundated with a lot. We're getting to them as quickly as we can. So everyone will have some answers on some of the issues that were their concerns during the flooding. And last week, the county went through an incident command training, and I was able to attend for a short amount of time, and just about a little bit of time that I was in there. to see 30 individuals, county staff, that went through this training, and it was asked of them to understand that they're dedicating their time during a crisis or a hazard to protect and provide service for the citizens of this county. And the level of commitment I saw in there, and a county manager and engineer and a lot of staff, it was amazing. I wish I could have stayed for the whole thing, but they understand that their role is going to be to come in here and look out for the citizens of Currituck County. And I can assure you, just what I saw in there, that this county is going to be well representative and well taken care of during a disaster. And the training was about 2.5 days and was very, very, very good. And I just want to thank the staff, county manager, and our emergency management personnel for putting that on. It was just unbelievable. That's all.
Thank you, Commissioner Payment. I'm going to back up and make a statement if I could. To Commissioner Etheridge's comments and to Mr. Cole's comments, at no time was any employee in Currituck County under any duress by any stretch of any imagination to make this contract go through. I've talked with the county attorney, and I've talked with several other people in the state. We are often applauded for how strict our processes are to achieve a contract in Currituck County. Perception is arbitrary. If you feel something is incorrect and you can quantify that statement, then I would accept that statement. I feel at no time was the county out of line in letting that contract, and they went through every single process. Travel, tourism, county staff, the county manager, and the county attorney went through every single process 100% complete and to the letter of the law. I want to be very clear on that. That's all I have to say about that. Moving on to public hearing, PB 18-17, Jay Winslow and Jason Graham, request for a text amendment to Chapter 4 use standards of the Unified Development Ordinance to allow automotive painting body shops in the general business zoning district. And with that, I'll hand it over to Ms. LaCicero.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The text amendment before you tonight, cut to the chase, it allows automotive painting and body shops in the general business district. Currently, we only allow body shops and painting in the LI and the HI, the light industrial and the heavy industrial zoning districts in Currituck County. The applicants, Mr. Jay Winslow and Jason Graham, came to staff. They were looking for a place to locate here in Currituck County, and we told them that we were only their business could only be in either LI or HI zoning district. We are very limited on our industrially zoned areas in Currituck County, and they were really more interested in a general business zoning parcel. So in that, we told the applicant that they should request a text amendment. And that's what they've done. In the use table, and within your packet, you can see that we've eliminated automotive painting and body shop from the heavy industrial and included it in automobile repair and servicing, including painting and body work. The way the UDO currently reads, you are allowed to have regular automotive repair in general business. The applicants have given us documentation now that painting, spray booths, and the like for painting now have to meet strict EPA guidelines. Previously, this was not the case previously, which is why they were located in the heavy industrial, because of the potential for fumes and different contaminants getting in the air. But now the EPA regulates spray booths, and so the applicants are requesting to allow this in general business. They would have to still meet the same standards as the other automotive repair that's located in general business. And let me get to those. That the repair facility shall be located at least 125 feet from any residential district, school, or child care center. Repair of all the vehicles shall occur within an enclosed building. Temporary outdoor vehicle storage may be allowed in an outdoor storage area that is no larger than 25% of the buildable area of the lot, located behind or to the side of the principal structure and screened. They're not planning to sell gasoline on site, but if gasoline is sold on site, the use shall also comply with the standards for gasoline sales. Vehicles shall not be parked or stored as a source of parts or for the purpose of sale or lease. And there will be a time limit for keeping vehicles on the lot. The planning TRC and the planning board do recommend approval of this text amendment, allowing painting body work in the GB zoning district. And I'll be glad to answer any questions.
I guess one question. I know that we do painting over at the aircraft part of the COA, where we do some sandblasting or whatever it might be. And here, that's an area away from everything. Here, we're putting this right next to other businesses possibly. I mean, how do we know that, how often are we checking to see if the filters are changed or, none of this is going to get on the other businesses or they're going to have to worry about the fumes?
Well, they are going to have to, one of the requirements is that they would have to give us their EPA certification for that they would be given a certificate of occupancy. And then they are randomly checked for compliance with these standards, and we've asked to be included in the reports when they are checked for compliance.
Any further questions for Ms. LaCicero? I see the applicants are signed up for a public hearing. Would you just like to come forward and kind of tell us a little bit about what you're going to be doing? Mr. Winslow and Mr. Graham. And are you Mr. Dortch? Okay.
Yes, sir. My name is Jay Winslow, and we put in this text amendment requesting this because we are interested in putting in a professional collision center in the Moyock area. As we know how much it's growing, there's not one now. Buddy Greger's Body Shop is the closest thing we have, and they're just way overbooked. We see a need for it in the area. The problem is that, as you know, there's about this much industrial land in Moyock area that is anywhere near the highway. So in order for us to run we feel a profitable business, to be able to stay in business, we would need to be somewhere where we could be seen and allow the public to know that we're there and providing this service. So that's why we're moving forward in that.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for the
I
applicant?
do. I just, since Commissioner Hall brought it up, when you're talking about your spray booth, everybody seems to focus on the spray booth and the fumes, changing filters and stuff. I'm guessing that if you guys don't change your filters, it's not going to operate like it's supposed to, and you're going to have paint problems, all kinds of other issues that go with that, right? So they're basically a vital part of that thing's performance, and you're turning out a good product.
Absolutely.
Okay. That was all I had. I've been in enough body shops, unfortunately,
Yeah, well,
to know what goes on there.
Mr. Winslow, whereabouts in Noyak are you looking to locate?
In the general area of right in downtown Moyock, if you would, downtown area. we're
Close to
actually
the Hardys. Landmarks. That's how we gauge here in Currituck.
Yeah, as we're looking right now is Trevor's business right here.
Over by the AJ Gators, we're looking at a place now. Roosevelt?
Yeah, at Roosevelt. Off the end of that cul-de-sac.
Off the highway?
Okay.
Yes.
You're not doing any automobile sales or anything. This is more body repair and everything else.
It's not going to be like sandblasting and restoration, just collision repair.
Okay.
Wrecks, replacing parts, fixing, painting.
Right, and I saw on there that it talks about having other cars there for parts. You may get parts off, but you're not going to store the carcasses of the donor cars.
No, sir.
Okay.
What's the acreage that's proposed for a business to this caliber? I have no idea. I've been to collision repairs in Virginia Beach, and I've been to Buddy Gregory, so I've had my tour at a couple of them. I'm just curious, an acre, half acre, what's...
Our current shops are 1 acre.
Okay.
Thank you.
Total, that's building, storage lot, and everything.
Okay.
Any further questions for the applicant? Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
With that, I'll open a public hearing. I do not have anyone signed up for the public hearing. Would anyone like to speak to this matter? With that, I will close the public hearing, and I'll open the floor for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve PB 1817 because the request is consistent with the land use plan. It recognizes the considerable value of small businesses, startups, expansions, and spinoffs. See policy ED4. And the request is reasonable and in the public interest because it is consistent with the purpose and the intent of section 1.3 of the UDO because it encourages business growth while protecting the aesthetic and environmental aspects of the county. And also, I'd like to say that that's an area that has needed a little bit of a jump start for businesses going in there. So I wish you luck.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. And with that, I'll call a recess until 6:45. Okay, we are back in session. Moving on to old business. Consideration and action, PB 18-15 Eagle Creek Golf Course and Grill. Request for a text amendment to Unified Development Ordinance, Chapter 5, Development Standards, to modify off-premise directional sign standards. With that, I'll hand it over to Ms. LaCicero.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This text amendment was tabled from the last meeting, and it is a request to have off-premise signs. And there was specific information that the Board of Commissioners wanted addressed or wanted to find out prior to acting on this. You received emails with that information. The number of businesses that this text amendment would allow to have off-premise signs is approximately 15 businesses. We were talking about how you measure sign height, and our ordinance does allow for the sign height to be measured from the road grade where this sign's going to be facing. If there's any questions for me, I'll be glad to answer them.
Do we have any questions for Ms. LaCicero or any statements regarding
Bobby,
this?
Excuse me.
Please go ahead.
Commissioner Hannig. Lori, I think that you need to clarify the information that you provided us. We originally had 150 businesses that this sign ordinance would affect, and then we've narrowed it down to 15 businesses that it would affect. So if you would elaborate for the public that change in numbers and how that's effective so that it doesn't appear that we've just selectively chosen 15 businesses out of 150 because there's 135 other businesses that are still, wanting roadside signage.
Okay. Through this text amendment process, the planning board was concerned, like staff is, just about the proliferation of off-premise signs. So they decided to put the TOD standards, NCDOT tourism-oriented destination signs, the TODS program. Those are the some blue signs that we see out on the roads. So in doing that, that gives us a list of specific types of businesses that would qualify for the TODS program. That's also in the text amendment. Let me get to the right page and I can read those to you.
Page 32 in the packet?
Yeah, page 40. Amusement parks, cultural centers, facility tour locations, recreation areas, natural phenomena, zoological and botanical park or farm, and agricultural facilities. Those are the types of business that would qualify for one of the TOD signs for the NCDOT. Also, there's in this text amendment, if you under 5.12.6.d, under prohibited signs, you see that commercial uses adjoining a major arterial street, those are not allowed to have an off-premise sign. So if you already have road frontage on Currituck Highway, you don't get an additional off-premise sign. And if you have to meet one of those, you have to be within 2 miles of a major arterial street. You have to essentially be 2 miles from Currituck Highway. You can't have road frontage on Currituck Highway, and your business must fall into one of those categories that I just read to you to be able to have an off-premise sign. So that's how we went from 150 to less than 15. Because a significant number of businesses locate along Currituck Highway for the great location.
And of those 15 businesses that you identified, the TODS or TODS program, you mentioned that there are already blue signs. Those are put out by the state, or where are they produced? Because this one particular property, has a sign right before you get to the intersection. It says golf course 1.2 miles to the left, or to the right, excuse me.
When I spoke to DOT about their TODS program, you have to qualify to be allowed to have that sign in the right-of-way. And he said that there were 3 places in Currituck County that are qualified, and one is the Eagle Creek Golf Course, another is Berries and Walnut Island, and another one is the county's, the rural center one. We have the TODS. DOT, it's a DOT program, but they do not put up the signs. They allow the signs to be erected in their right-of-way, and they have a general theme of what they're supposed to look like. So that's maybe why there's a little variation in the blue color between some signs. But those are the 3 official TOD signs in the county. They're on the mainland.
Okay. And I bring that point up because when we went through this sign ordinance exercise, I'll call it, back a few years back, there was a lot of intense studies, a lot of meetings, and I'm just struggling with how we have decided to separate a handful of businesses out of the need. Being fair and consistent is what I'm looking at. And at this point in time, with this new information of how the TODS program affects the businesses that are 2 miles off the major arterial, I feel like we've kind of doing a pick and choose of who we're going to allow to have off-site signs. So it changes things for me, in my opinion. So to be fair and consistent, I don't think that we're going down the right path with changing the sign ordinance. I feel strongly about that.
As you said, we're using the TODS program. We're using a program that's already there in the Rural Center. Perfect example. We have the signs out there. Still one of the best kept secrets in Currituck. And we went out and we put our own sign up there finally because it was needed, because people still didn't know about it, couldn't find it. It's a Currituck Park. Here we have a business that is a destination that we've allowed to improve and add to, and it is a destination like any other golf courses that we have. This isn't Mike Hall's kite flying business. This is a destination. This is a tourist location that people come here from other areas to play golf. Would you not say?
Yes, I would say that would fall under the recreation area. The golf course would fall under the recreation area of the TODS definition.
So a change in this ordinance essentially makes it more in line with the state's guidelines than anything else. And they pretty much want us pushing tourism as a whole. Just a statement more than anything. This is going to bring us more in line with what they're allowing. for what they consider tourist-operated business, and that is one of the goals, is to bring tourists into the area, as we've done with the creation of some of our other areas like the CCRC.
Any further statements or questions for Ms. LaCicero?
I have a, okay, so we set June 1st, 2018 as the business had to be in existence prior to that. What was, I mean, I guess that was the date of the original thoughts on the ordinance, but if this is a good thing for tourism, if this is a good thing for industry, why would we set a start or a no later than date on it?
So any new business that would be created should be entitled to the same. Right.
I'm in order to be consistent.
Right.
I
Yeah, I got it. Yep.
and then that raises the question, because I endured the pain with the signs. I mean,
Yep,
Commissioner
me too.
Gilbert and I, right, and so I get that. But then, and how many businesses does that then open up for this type of sign change? So I'm not sure that we could arbitrarily. So I've got two concerns. One of them, the arbitrary date of June 1st, and then the other one is, what further impact would that have? And then the other comment is, does anybody follow signs anymore?
No.
I'm just
No, if they're coming to
saying.
Arizona
I am
Corolla,
just
they
saying. It's Google. It's whatever. Anyway, and I'm all in for what we can do to increase business, but again, it's the unintended consequences that I want to really, having endured the pain, those are the consequences that I hate to open a door that we're going to regret down the road.
Well, I'm sorry, go ahead. I'll use our own billboards and our own ads. We have a welcome center at the front of the county, and we have a billboard prior to that to tell people, get ready, here it comes, because you missed that little sign that's this big, and it's helped us tremendously. We still have that billboard to this date, but that billboard, I think the gentleman from Eagle Creek said that he had the billboard right across from his, and it was costing him well over $10,000 a year or more for the billboard. Here he can put a sign up which has the directional arrow. He proved from his own accounting that his business increased with the billboard. We've used the billboard to help us get people to come to the Welcome Center and know it's there, because once you're on top of it, in that traffic, you slam on your brakes or you go, oh, I want to go here. Nope, I'm going right on by. Or somebody who's lost. It becomes an area, hey, it's right past that sign or something else. I think it's a benefit to the county. I think it does possibly open up some question at a later time, such as the date. And if you think that's something we should remove, I'm willing to listen to that.
Here's a question, and slightly different, but kind of ties into that. I've been approached on multiple occasions about why we don't have mile markers in Currituck County. Where, do you have an answer?
Well, that question came up before, but I think it's, and even Miss Kitty asked about, but DOT they're going away from that. They're just not going to invest. I don't think they're going to let the county do it either.
We've actually asked several times in the past about having mile markers either on the mainland or the Outer Banks, and it's a program that DOT historically puts mile markers on their interstate systems, not on their secondary roads. 168 goes halfway across the state, and their convention, if I recall, was they start from the west to the east, so it wouldn't be mile marker 1 in Moyock. It would be wherever it is on 168. They just gave a long list of reasons why they just do not support and are not pursuing putting mile markers out on either the mainland or the Outer Banks. But it's not the direction DOT is moving in.
And while I understand that, but how many tourists know exactly where they are on 158 or 168? And what the issue that was raised to me was, I get in a car accident or I see a car accident, I'm in the middle, I've got farmer fields, they're raising corn across the street, right? There's nothing, they have no point of reference by which, from an emergency, an emergency response. And as we've learned with the Army Corps, just because the government says so does not necessarily make that a great idea. Anyway, but going back to your point, Mike, if you were able to say, hey, we're just past mile marker 5, right, then, anyway.
Well, Dare County has mileposts.
I agree. So let's not call them mile marker, let's call them mileposts.
Okay, folks, if we could stick to the subject at hand, that'd be great. I much appreciate that. Any further statements or questions for Ms. LaCicero?
Well, I guess come back to that same question. Do you think it would open how many more future businesses if we remove the date of June 1st, 2018?
Whatever businesses that would come in
There's-
that 2 miles away from the arterial, up to 2 miles away,
Well,
meets the Todds. And
there's 8 categories of businesses here, and then however many people wish to open them up. But isn't our goal to increase tourism in Currituck County and encourage that growth?
Well, it is, but I think we've heard in the past too that a lot of our the cluttering along the highways.
I get that. Yeah,
Was
yeah.
a major concern with billboards
Right.
and stuff like that.
Right.
Is like Paul says, if we take this, if we just limit it, if we're going to be consistent, we need to take it off of June 1st. But then, you're right, as businesses want to come in, you could be cluttering the highways.
So to follow up, right, when we look at the specific purposes that this would be permissible under, right, I think if another amusement park comes in and it's 2 miles off, certainly that would warrant. I guess what I'm saying is these exemptions or these conditions that have to be met are pretty darn specific, and there's not a whole lot of business that's going to make that. If we got another amusement park, I would be stunned. So I guess suffice to say, I would delete the facilities existing prior to June 1st, because if someone wants to invest and put in another amusement park, I think they should go ahead and get an off-premises sign.
And I think the fact that we went from 150 to 15 shows that there is consistency with the new policy, the way it's written, that would keep us in a smaller amount.
Again, a lot of the Todd's businesses that are allowable under this ordinance that we're looking at already have signs up. This particular business, and I'm every single one of us in our platforms when we ran as elected official was to increase economic development, not just tourism. And you've got 135 other businesses that are not being considered when we implement this. And that's where I struggle is we have 15 that can already get signage under the Todd's program, but then we're allowing them to have additional signage where we're not allowing these other businesses the same courtesy. And I'm really struggling with that because each one of us ran on economic development. So I just want to put that out there.
Okay. If I could, I disagree with that statement.
Go ahead, Rod. I have a thought.
Okay. Any business is allowed to come in and ask us to change any ordinance. We consistently look at our ordinances. We consistently change our ordinance. All of our ordinances are dynamic. They're able to change at a moment's notice. Whatever we see a need or we need to make an adjustment, that's what we do. We are not prohibiting anyone from coming in and saying, man, I wish you would change that ordinance to where I can do this too. They are more than welcome to come in and apply and do the same thing that this applicant is doing. We're not restricting anybody. We're considering this one applicant to be able to do what he wants to do. We're not restricting anyone. We're not keeping anyone from developing their business or growing their business in any way, shape, or form or otherwise. We are encouraging business growth by allowing this. That's my opinion.
In addition to that, these other businesses that are off the road, I would think by and large the pool guy would be one of them. Don't rely on road frontage to get their business. They rely on advertising. You got like Coastal Gas, all these other. They're in these industrial parks. Their businesses don't really need that street frontage to receive their business. So, while yes, it will favor a few businesses in the county and not some other ones, it's not always necessary to have that road frontage for your business.
And aren't these in the right-of-way? So DOT has some authority over them, right?
The Todd signs are, these would, the off-premise signs that, that our ordinance change would allow, they would be on private property and not in the right-of-way. Now, DOT does have jurisdiction over the blue Todd signs, yes.
And where do we allow these signs? Only on agriculture? Or do we, like, for instance, if I own Mike's Kite Shop that's on the highway, can I put 5 signs in my front of my property for other people?
No. You may only have one.
Located in the ag, business, and or mixed zoning district.
And off-premise directional signs must be located on property within 2 miles of the intersection of a major arterial or collector street accessing the commercial use. Maximum of 1 off-premise directional sign is permitted per business. And the off-premise sign, directional sign shall not exceed 32 square feet in area or 15 feet in height. An off-premise directional sign shall be allowed to display the name of the business only, no logo, and the direction in which it is located. And off-premise directional signs shall not be located within the site triangle or street right-of-way. And off-premise directional signs shall not contain any electronic message board or be lighted in any manner. So that would be all the requirements for an off-premise sign.
Okay, any further statements or questions for Ms. LaCicero? Going once. And with that, I open the floor for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move to approve PB 1815 because the request is consistent with the land use plan. Sign policies and standards should be established and periodically updated to enhance community appearance and create a quality business image. Such standards are to be tailored to achieve development characters for different parts of the county. See policy CA4. The request is reasonable and in public interest because it is consistent with the purpose and intent of Section 5.12, 5.12.5, 5.12.6 of the UDO because it reduces the size of allowable off-premise directional signs. It will direct traffic to tourist-oriented businesses, locations not fronting a major highway or arterial street, and it lessens the size of the allowed off-premises directional signs. I would also like to put in there removing the prior date of June 1st, 2018. That is my motion.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-1. That, ladies and gentlemen, is democracy at its best. Good banter back and forth, way to voice your opinions. Outstanding work. Thank you. Moving on, consideration of an ordinance of the Currituck County Board of Commissioners amending Section 2-96A of the Currituck County Code of Ordinances to require statement of interest for nominees to advisory boards and amending Section 298 of the Currituck County Code of Ordinance to clarify concurrent membership on authorities, boards, and commissions. With that, I'll hand it over to Mr. McCree.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This ordinance was before you at your last meeting and is back before you tonight as it was unable to be adopted on its first reading due to the lack of a unanimous vote. It may be adopted tonight by simple majority vote. I'll quickly walk through the modifications to this particular provision in your Code of Ordinances. The ordinance before you tonight amends Section 2-96A of the Code of Ordinances. First of all, with regard to the method of appointment to your board's authorities and commissions, beginning on line 27 of page 1 of the proposed ordinance, it adds a requirement that only persons who have filed a statement of interest with the clerk to the board shall be nominated for a seat on any county board, authority, or commission. The next, continuing on line 28, the next sentence also would be new language added that would provide that any person who holds the office of county commissioner may not be appointed to an authority, board, or commission at this board's first meeting in December, unless that person, who is a current county commissioner, is beginning a new term of office at that first meeting of December. So what that means is that if there is a person who is a county commissioner at the first meeting in December, and they were not reelected and not beginning a new term of office, they may not at that meeting be appointed to a county commission, authority, or board. If they are a sitting commissioner who has been reelected and beginning a new term of office at that meeting, they may be appointed by the board to a county board, authority, or commission at that particular meeting. The next amendment would amend Section 2-98 regarding the number of boards, commissions, or authorities that one person may serve at one time. And so beginning at line 36, you'll see the language that is to be stricken and to be added in order to clarify what has been an ongoing question as to whether someone may serve more than one board, authority, or commission at a time. This will clarify that no, a person may only serve on one board, authority, or commission at a time. The next issue that's always caused some confusion since this ordinance was first adopted has been, well, what is a board, authority, or commission that someone may not serve on in multiple instances at one time? We often have questions, may someone serve on the planning board and the ABC board? And so the response has been, well, the ABC board is not a board created by this body, the County Board of Commissioners. It exists pursuant to statute. That the intent of this ordinance provision was originally that someone may not serve on more than one county created, a Board of Commissioners created authority, board, or commission. But it has over time evolved to that perhaps that was not truly the intent, that the county commissioners really only want a person to serve on one board, authority, or commission, that is any board, authority, or commission that this particular body, the Board of Commissioners, makes appointments to. And so that's what this change would do after that lengthy explanation, is simply to say you can only serve on one authority, board, or commission that this board has the authority to appoint an individual to serve. So those are the ordinance amendments proposed. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Mr. McCray, what makes us different? And is this just something that's come about over the years, other than a county commissioner? So I serve on 3 boards currently. Well, one of the Wild Horse Board doesn't really, but I'm a commissioner, so that's how I'm sitting on that board in that capacity. What makes us more special that we're allowed to do that, but citizens isn't?
Well, it's not special, but it's recognizing that in your role, that's what ex officio, in your role as a county commissioner, it's understood or expected that you will serve, as you know, on more than one board, commission, or authority that this board appoints you to, whether it be the Regional Mental Health Board, the Albemarle Commission, the Regional Health Board, College of the Albemarle. And so it does make there is a differentiation between the elected county commissioner serving in that capacity as a member of multiple boards versus a citizen serving on more than one board at a time. Now, the idea when the Board of Commissioners that adopted this ordinance was to try to encourage increased participation by different people and a larger number of people on county boards, authorities, and commissions. Now, you recognize there are times where you struggle to be able to find persons who are able or willing to serve on county boards, authorities, and commissions while we have been applying this particular ordinance prohibition on serving on more than one board at a time. But there's really nothing special about you as county commissioners. I mean, if you wanted,
I just wanted to get you to say that. I was waiting the whole time just for that.
Bob, you're not special.
other than you employ me.
Well, you teed that one
Which
up,
makes you
Bob.
very special.
Like that?
Right out of the park.
So
Right.
what I'm
That's awesome.
saying is that you can decide that the county commissioner can only serve on one board, authority, or commission at a time, which you may be pleased to make that decision. But that is up to you and your authority to structure county government as you see fit.
Thank you, Mr. McCree. I guess the only issue I have with that ordinance is, like you said, we have a really hard time filling these boards. And it's, I don't want a board to suffer because we can't find bodies to fill them. You know, we have a really good planning board member that's going to step off and step onto the advisory board, and I feel if someone wants to serve and they want to be dedicated to the county, they should be allowed to. I don't want a board to suffer because we don't have someone to fill the seats.
Well, in my view on this is I've always looked to try to get someone new or someone different, but like the chairman had said, sometimes it's difficult. And the only thing I'll have to say about this is if you've got somebody who's qualified for two boards and they've got the time and they're knowledgeable and they're going to do their job and report back to you like you want them to, I mean, why should we say no to an individual if we can't? I mean, because we're supposed to find somebody in an advisory board too that it can help us understand a specific area in that advisory board to bring back information to us.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's why we look for somebody to help us out with that. Well, that's why I look at it, try to find the right person.
And when we started this, I was in agreement with the idea of one board, but then as I got to think unintended consequences, I'm over in Corolla, and I'm on a board there for the sewer treatment plant, or I'm on for the road committee. Well, if you're on that board, that means I may not have somebody who wants to sit on the planning board, or the board of which is countywide, not neighborhood specific. And I think
Right, as you as a commissioner, you have that authority to appoint somebody different if you find somebody right.
But again, if we can't find them because there are only 400 people over in that area.
Well, we have that now. We have, looking at the list that Dan sent out with the management report, we have several people that are currently serving on multiple boards.
Has it been an issue?
I don't think so. I talked to Eric Weatherly over the weekend, and he commented that Barbara Marzetti is very valuable to him, and she sits on the watershed board and the stormwater board or whatever it is.
I've never heard of any issues.
Well, I don't see why when somebody serves 2 terms, they have to come off if they're doing a good job. You look at some of the people who've served, they're passionate about their job, they enjoy it. So why do we have to replace them after 2 terms?
We don't.
Until you have another appointment, they stay on that board. So
right.
Unless you appoint somebody new, they don't come off.
They're hanging out.
You don't have to reappoint somebody.
You don't have to but I'm in agreement. If we've got some folks that are doing good in serving in the capacity that they've been appointed, it upsets the apple cart, especially if some momentum is going. But then again, there's the opportunity. We have 26,000 constituents in the county. There's 7 of us. We serve multiple boards, but we need to do a better job, I think, of the outreach and education. And I would like to see maybe something in the next quarterly communication go in about advisory boards, because I've had some folks that have just moved into the Moyock area that weren't aware of the advisory boards, even though, in my attempt to get some new appointments, I've had conversations with some of my constituents that weren't aware that they could serve. So I think we need to do a better job of communicating that, and I think that we will see an upturn of people stepping up to the plate.
But also with the same thing, I agree with what you're saying. If I'm serving on a board for 2 terms, and there are 5 people on the waiting list that want to do it, and I've been doing it for 4 years or 6 years, whatever it might be, I think it's then our responsibility, the 7 of us, to say, maybe it's time I give somebody else a chance, and maybe this other person will go to this other board, Or, hey, I can sit and talk with them, say, you've done it for this many years. I got a waiting list. How do you tell these people on the waiting, you may die on the waiting list?
No, but I mean, as
we currently have term limits. I mean, that's
well,
basically
as
what
the
we're at
chairman
there, so-
too, we can always, at any time, we can make changes to our advisory boards at any time.
Right.
I mean, if we got two people serving, all of a sudden somebody pops up, comes up and says, gosh, this would be a better fit, we can say, okay, well, we're going to, we can replace that as we feel fit.
I think our thoughts were in the right place, but I think unintended consequences.
Well, I
have
just
shown
don't, I mean,
itself.
I think it don't need to be in the ordinance here. I mean, we can, choose, our advisory people, and if, we can make changes that need, I mean, we're in control of our appointments. And I think as well, to finish it, but I just think I know myself, and I'm sure everybody else, other board members here, we do our best to try to find different individuals and fill them as best we can, but there's times out there, like Mr. Hall said,
They just aren't there.
they're not there.
Yeah.
In consideration of our conversation, I would suggest that we go back to maybe more than 2 appointments, because you guys know how much work is, if it's done right, put into these advisory boards and them being the experts. It's not just going and just being a warm body at a meeting once a month or once a quarter, because some of the boards only meet quarterly. That gives you plenty of time to serve in another capacity. So I would suggest maybe that we look at stating on line 36 more than 2 appointments.
Shall not
And
serve
you're right,
more
Ms.
than
Gilbert. I mean,
And giving them a limit of, they can serve on
They can serve on
minimum.
2 boards.
Right, a
As long
maximum
as-
of 2 boards.
If we did that, right, would we need to add language that they can't conflict with each other or something, like planning to Board of Adjustment?
Wouldn't that be already in the ethics?
Yeah. I really can't think of any other board that would have, well, I mean, even those 2 boards wouldn't necessarily conflict. I mean, the planning board deals with applications and text amendments and things of that nature, while the Board of Adjustment is quasi-judicial in nature, dealing with appeals and variances from the ordinance. So, I mean, conceivably, someone could serve on both. It'd be up to this board to decide that whether you felt like that was appropriate.
Okay.
Okay. Ms. Gilbert, would you like to put that in a form of a motion?
Yes, sir, I would like to make a motion that we change line 36 of this ordinance to say not more than 2 appointments to an authority, board, or commission.
I will second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously.
Just a quick question to can we pass it with this amendment tonight then like that, unanimously?
Oh, yes.
It did, okay.
Yes,
Okay.
so the ordinance.
It changed, okay.
Yes, was adopted unanimously.
Moving on to new business, board appointments. We'll try to, there's a lot of appointments. I know, isn't that funny? We got a lot of appointments. We'll try to get through this as quickly as we can. Animal Services and Control Advisory Board.
Mr. Chairman, since I'm the ex officio, I would like to make the appointment or reappointment of Donna Corbo, Michael Shannon, and then add Brenda Parrish, who would replace Lynn Christian on the Animal Advisory Board. So those are the 3 appointments that I would like to make as a consensus for the Animal Services Control Advisory Board.
Can I have a second? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Moving on, Game Commission. If I could, I'd like to reappoint Jason Belanger.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to reappoint Jeremy Evans as well for the gaming board.
Any further gaming board appointments?
I'll second those appointments.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Moving on to Citizens Advisory Board. Senior Citizens Advisory Board, I apologize.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to appoint Alicia Hugdahl to the Senior Citizens Advisory Board. She's a county employee and has worked with the seniors in her job in human resources, and I think she would be an asset to this board.
Outstanding, and I would like to reappoint Rita Farabee, who by all accounts is doing a great job.
I don't have a replacement, so I would like for Mary Ellen Maxwell to continue to serve until that time comes.
And also with mine at this time, I would like her to continue until I have an appropriate replacement. She's doing a very good job, Ms. Steele.
Okay.
And, Mr. Chairman, I have a question for staff. My member was appointed 7/17, two-year term, shouldn't expire till 7/17/2019.
They probably served over, so the terms run 2 years no matter what. So they all start in February.
He was reappointed in February,
So
maybe?
The appointment probably just wasn't made until
July.
7/17.
Mr. Beaumont, like my appointment, she replaced someone that passed away on
Right.
the board.
Right. The term
So she's
starts-
fulfilling his term.
So the end of the first term of my candidate is February 1st, 2019, according to this, which
Yeah,
isn't
whoever
here
was
yet.
serving,
So,
right. Well, this is the term, so the replacement would be an unexpired term. That person, whoever replaces Mr. Myers, would fill an unexpired term.
okay. Got it.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. One we're all very much looking forward to, the Veterans Advisory Board. If I may appoint Chet Moore.
I'd like to appoint Michael Shea.
E.T. Smith?
And I would like to appoint John McCauley, but he is currently on the planning board, but he had asked that he is going to
You can serve on
contact.
two.
What's that?
You can serve
You can serve
on
on
two.
two.
Oh, that's right. Well, I don't know. I think he still may want to, but we'll talk to him. But I'd like to nominate John McCauley for the advisory board.
Okay.
I'd like to nominate Jennifer Coonan.
Okay. Any further nominations? Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. If I can, a quick note on the advisory board. I think this is a big deal for Currituck County, and I'm real proud of everyone, how they were so on board to get this going. And, we'll get the rest of these appointments made, and hopefully we can get a meeting sometime in the early fall. That would be great. So thank you all for that. Moving on to consent agenda.
We got to do Board of Adjustment?
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. It's here. I apologize. Number 5, Board of Adjustment.
So I would like to nominate Kathy Bonhelps to that board. I spoke with her earlier today, and she seems eager to serve, and hopefully will do a great job for us.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Moving on to number 6, Recreational Advisory Board.
I'd like to reappoint Ryan Hodges to that board. She's indicated she wants to continue serving in that capacity.
Second that.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Have we missed any board appointments this evening? Outstanding work. Appreciate that. Moving on to consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to pull some things out if I could, just for a little bit of discussion. One would be on page 76, the boat shed, historic boat museum. I know we've had these discussions, and I'll be leaving in December, and I just want to make sure that one of the things that we've talked about in here has been meeting area for the public, classroom, bathrooms, and where the boats will be stored. I want to make sure that they're interactive. I want to make sure that when we're doing these things that you guys, I know we've all talked about it, that it's not just they're stored there on a rack. There's something you can do on it. People can put their hands on them. They can get on them. I want to make sure that this is something that's just not, hi, I walked through it and it looks great and kept right on going. I want people to spend time there. I want to be able to where the citizens, the tourists, if they need a meeting room, it's there. I know these are all things we've talked about, but I just want to say, since I won't be there at the completion, that this continues on when we appropriate this amount of money.
Mike, you can come over and visit. It's okay.
Sounds like a good appointment to me.
Walking on the boats.
Folks, if I can, Mr. Scanlon, can you elaborate a little bit on that one item, what we're doing here this evening with that?
What you're doing is, this is money that the board approved, or previous boards approved for this project. but the project was not completed by June 30th, so the budget allowance lapsed. So what this is simply carrying forward the budget allocation for a project. For the boat museum specifically, that project will be coming back to the Board of Commissioners for ultimate approval before it goes forward. So you will have the opportunity to comment on the floor plan, the design, when that is done. This is simply carrying forward monies that boards have already approved. You're not adding additional money to the project. You're not changing the product. You're carrying forward, advancing the funds.
You have any idea when that would get some kind of vision of it?
That particular project now is with the architect. They're moving through their state permitting process and moving into final designs. And I imagine in another next 30, 60 days, you probably should be getting something that be coming to you that you can give the final approval for before it moves into actual construction.
I appreciate it. Just if I wasn't here, I wanted to, things that we'd all talked about and I'm looking forward to. And then also on page 80, sole source. And I understand that certain things, there aren't that many people out there that make these things or do these things. And when you see this, I don't want anybody to come back later on and say, well, why didn't you put this out for bid or anything else? But the sole source purchase for supervisory control and data acquisition system for the Southern Outer Banks water system, we've done our homework. It's just, it's
that's it.
Equipment specific is why we're going sole source.
That's the information from the water superintendent at the Southern Outer Banks water system. That this equipment is made, well, as it says in the resolution, that the company is the only entity capable of providing the computer hardware and necessary software that is compatible with the system that's currently in place and operational at the water plant. Okay. And on that basis, it met the sole source provision of the general statute.
Okay. And I guess last but not least, I feel like I'm Bobby tonight. I'm asking one or two questions. Page 88, job descriptions on the fire groups. And I defer to Commissioner Beaumont. I mean, you're on the Fire Advisory Board. I mean, you've reviewed these. You're more up to date on terminology and things. Is there anything that we need to know about any of these changes that?
No.
I'll be happy. I think Commissioner Etheridge had asked the question during the course of the day. What you're seeing with the handful of fire and EMS job descriptions is in the minimum requirements for someone to seek employment with the county. There's some references now that are either dated or not in play anymore. Specifically for those, you're going to see the requirement that new employees have a Class B driver's license. It also mentioned you had to have a valid North Carolina driver's license. Well, we have employees that reside in other states, and they have a valid driver's license with the state they reside in, so we're changing that to say as long as you have a valid driver's license. And I think I shared with you today, there's language with DMV that does not require any longer a Class B driver's license endorsement for you to drive emergency vehicles. And so what we're doing is striking those from the actual job description. We do have, when a person is hired and they do possess a valid driver's license, we have emergency drivers training that they have to go through. So I'm not telling you that just anybody that has a driver's license can drive a vehicle. They still have to go through specialized training that we offer once they're employed. But this is to strike references out of their job descriptions that are no longer applicable.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Scanlon.
And I think that's it for me.
So I'll make a motion for approval of the consent agenda.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'm sorry?
Somebody second?
We did have a second.
Oh, sorry, I missed that.
Yep. We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Moving on to County Manager's Report.
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Thank you. With that, I'll call for a motion to adjourn the regular meeting of the Board of Commissioners.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. I will now open the special meeting of the Tourism Development Authority for budget amendments. I'll hand it over to Mr. Scanlon.
Mr. Chairman, you have 4 budget amendments in your package for your consideration tonight. The first one, the staff has located an artifact that they would like to acquire. and so they're looking to move money out of the supply line item into the capital outlay item. It was brought to my attention that Mr. Knight was a architect, and they have found a drafting table and some tools of the period, and so there's a budget amendment in your package to support the acquisition of a drafting table to reflect that part of Mr. Knight's life. The second budget amendment is to, seems like we've had a theme with this one, is we're continuing to replace air conditionings. There's, I was told, 20-some-odd air conditioning units in the building, and this is funding to replace another one of those units. The third and fourth budget amendment have the same theme to it, which we just discussed. These are moving forward or advancing funds that expired June 30th, but the project was not completed. So we're bringing the budgeted money forward. It's not a request for new money. It's just continuing. One project is the preservation stabilization of the historic jail, which is right next door. And the second one is to bring forward the money for the boat museum that we just discussed. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions for Mr. Scanlon?
Nope.
Motion for approval?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. I'll now call for a motion to adjourn the special meeting of the TDA.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.